Hi, I'm Annabelle.
And I'm Amy, and welcome to Escape Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through in the hopes that we can finally escape the show.
Join us each week and leave comments on upcoming episodes, and together we can escape Supernatural Purgatory.
Hi Purgatory Pals, we have a very special episode for you this week, as we're joined by our good friend Jay, who is known as the Pixel Agora on Tumblr, and as you know from our episodes, designed our episode art, and is just generally all round a really nice person.
Hi. That is me.
So Jay, you're here this week. We kind of wanted to do something around November 5th. I think this episode is coming out November 7th. Obviously, if you're listening to it, you know that. We wanted to discuss with you, or you want to discuss with us, season 15 and all the trials and tribulations, and kind of a dissection, a confession.
It's a thesis. I have a thesis statement.
Yeah.
The title of that thesis statement is The Lost Potential of Season 15, which is, basically what I thought, how we could make this work, because obviously we cannot discuss the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
I basically had like a few key ideas and topics that I wanted to rack your brains on. I'm basically gonna conduct an informed interview with you on your thoughts and feelings about certain things. And I'd like to run through the meta text, obviously, but then also Destiel and Celine in parallels between those two, and how the writers wrote themselves into the most cornered corner that ever cornered. And then plot lines that went nowhere or didn't get finished, and what went wrong with the end, and all of that tinfoil hat talk.
I mean, as people who listen to our podcast know, we are finale deniers. I mean, very
it didn't happen.
Strong.
The show ended at 1518.
Yes, we refer to it often and why it was bad. So I think this is the perfect. a perfect thing to do as we near the year anniversary of the ending of the show.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Obviously, spoilers for season 15. But also probably talk of like suicide to a certain extent, so trigger warning for that. If you're sensitive, don't listen. This season opened with like, I don't know, was it the biggest plot twist of the whole show that Chuck was in fact like a black, like a dark character, kind of, as in like a villain? Was it like a big reveal? Because I feel like it was.
Really?
I don't know. To a degree, maybe people could have seen it coming. I have a bit of a different experience with the show because I have been watching the show after it ended. So I watched it all in bulk. So maybe this was just a bit different for me. But I genuinely liked Chuck in that Amara season. I was like, oh, he's a wholesome god. And then that happened. And I was like, oh no.
I think it's funny because I remember being in the fandom and I feel like the theory that Chuck was God was bandied about a lot. I think the final reveal of Chuck being God, it was like, I knew it moment rather than it being a big surprise.
Right.
I think,
but then was Chuck like being evil? Was that a big reveal? Because I don't know, honestly.
I honestly don't know, like, because everything else they've seen that's like supernatural has eventually gone bad.
Right.
And I think at the point they revealed like there is a god and he is tangible and can talk to you, there was something in the back of my mind that at some point they were gonna punch God in the face.
Yeah, fair, you know. I see where you're getting at that.
But I do get your point that all through sort of the seasons with Amara, because she had been the main antagonist and Chuck had very much been on their side,
right?
That it seemed to be a sudden shift. I don't know what you think, Annabelle.
I was more shocked that of what his statement at the end of season 14, like, I'm gonna end it all. That's what shocked me, but the fact that he turned out evil, not really. And this might just be like my view on religion in general, but and also I feel like the way that Rob Benedict played God was that he didn't necessarily care about anybody, so it made sense that he wouldn't care about ending it all.
Yeah.
Right.
So it wasn't like, even the stuff with Amara, I was more sympathetic to Amara than I was Chuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true.
Because Chuck was the one who locked her away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in my mind, it's like, oh yeah, he's already not great.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah. But like, you know, in this basically the season opens with this reveal of Chuck is actually a dick, and I very much liked the kind of exchange between, like, when that was revealed. That was just very nicely done. I swear I'm not going to go into this much detail over every single episode, because we're going to be here for a year. But yeah, it was basically like just Sam like looking at Chuck and Chuck being like, "Oh yes, this is golden," you know. Dean meanwhile aiming at Jack over here, big emotions, and Chuck just getting off on that. And Sam going like, "You're enjoying this," and it was just, yeah. And this is where I think the meta text really starts for the show. Well, not for the show as a whole, but for this particular, I think, like, because a lot of people have been equating Chuck to the network or Chuck to the writers, or, you know, that whole shebang. Like, Chuck is the in-show representation for the forces that created the show. And so I feel like this was the very first moment that it was sort of put out there as kind of a thought, which that's a bold move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like maybe it wasn't like, it was more confirmed than anything else, just because obviously, like, with the writing of the books in whatever season he comes in, I can't remember right now. You know, 4 or 5, I don't remember.
the
No,
show
it wasn't
happened.
that far back. Yeah. So I feel like them confirming that he's the writer of everything.
Yeah.
Definitely, like, to then, like, to go from, like, conceptual, he's the writer of the show, to no, he is the writer of the show, is a bit like, okay, all right, you made that decision.
You made it, and then you made him evil. Okay, and, like, very pretentious.
This is it, like... Okay, so, I mean, there are proxies on the show, so Chuck is a proxy for the network and for the writers. Like, Becky is a proxy for the audience.
Yeah, exactly.
And the choices they made with them are really interesting. You're right. Why would you take your writer and make them not benevolent? Like, do they hate the show that much?
Yeah, that's because this kind of, through the show, kind of follows a very interesting path that I'd like to open for you, if you will, now, because you've mentioned Becky, and that was a whole ordeal of, like, Becky is a stand-in for the fandom, and then it's like, you know, through the whole show we've kind of seen her in a bit of a derogatory light, almost, where, like, she was obsessed with the characters, and, like, it was downright unhealthy, and just wow. It basically painted her and, like, the entire fandom in a bad light through the whole thing. But then in that one episode in season 15, Atomic Monsters, she was basically like, the roles had flipped. Like, Chuck was no longer the great character, he was the villain, and then she was like, oh, you know what, I've moved on, kind of, I still like the books, but I also have a life and a family, and this is just a hobby that I have. And then she kind of, the whole thing about how she hated the ending Chuck came up with for them, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, it was a great setup, to like then subvert those expectations, because that's the whole thing, right? Like, I enjoyed season 15 to a point, because it was like setting up for this grand thing. Like, this felt like something that's never been done before, which is like the network is actively setting like, this show has lived for a very long time and it's running its course and we can't stop it, and we maybe tried to stop it, and that there are these whole parallels and meta and all of that. And like, at the end, it's gonna subvert the expectations, it's gonna break free, the writer is gonna be like gone, and the characters are gonna do whatever. And that's kind of like, all of these breadcrumbs kind of left that trail towards that ending of like, wow, the show is like breaking free of the narrative.
Yeah. I have thoughts on Becky Rosen.
Yeah.
Because, when she was first introduced, it was very much... It was derogatory.
Sorry, that is the other person who is doing the podcast with me.
Yeah, because Becky was an indictment of the fans. It was saying, you are too obsessed with the actors on this show. And the writers on this show, because she literally has a relationship with Chuck.
Yeah, she dated him for a while.
I feel like... So a lot of people I've seen online have said, like, they tried to mature Becky. They realised that she was a poor representation of the fandom, and they gave her a house, and they gave her kids, and they gave her a life. And I've been thinking on this recently. I feel like they were telling us to move on with Becky in Atomic Monsters.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you need to detach yourself from this writing. Go make your own fan fiction. Go get on with your life and your hobbies, because this show is ending and you can't stop it.
Yeah.
Right, but then you see what Chuck does to her.
Yeah, exactly.
In that episode too. So it's just like, it's kind of a conflict of narratives. Because she doesn't like his ending.
Yeah.
So he destroys... Yeah, he destroys the fandom. Like, what is that?
What is this foreshadowing? I don't like it. Leave it alone.
And
like...
so I mean, yeah, it is definitely foreshadowing, but it's, as much as they're trying to improve her image, to then kill it off just seems like the finale. A spit in the face.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, exactly. And this is the thing, right? That it's not just that kind of leaves those little like clues for that sort of narrative to be developing. It's not just Becky. It's like, if you kind of look at the whole formula of how the first few episodes versus how the like few last episodes and somewhere in the middle, how that kind of develops, it's interesting to me because at the very beginning, and I have no idea if I'm going to make any sense whatsoever saying this, but at the very beginning, it's like, there is a certain degree of hopelessness, but that is very quickly like replaced by what I've described in my notes as like tearjerker cases.
Yeah. Which
is like, every time that we see Chuck's influence on what's happening to the boys' lives, it has that, like, the episode takes on that format of like very parallel-y kind of cases to the situation that the boys are facing in the show.
Yeah.
Right. That it's like, that one case where it's like, the brothers, the werewolf brothers, and they end up like, killing each other.
Yeah.
Because that's what Chuck wants out of the ending for Sam and Dean. And then like the very dramatic case of like the vampire kid who's like, this is my responsibility, and he runs into the woods. And it's like very dramatic, very tearjerker, and it's just kind of like, this is kind of the Chuck likes to watch, and he likes to watch a very specific content.
Yeah.
Which is basically this kind of content, and I feel like it's turned up to 11 at the very beginning to kind of showcase that, he has control over what happens, and they can't really do much to break free of that narrative.
He essentially, through the cases, you're right at the beginning, makes them watch their predestination over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, we recently only finished season 2.
Yeah.
And we already started talking about predestination. And like, how free will fits into some of the choices that they make. And I think the way I see it is Chuck taunting them, like, you know, mirroring back some of the choices that they've made and being like, you had no control over this was always going to happen, this is the path that I laid out for you, which goes with what you were saying, as surely the win would be breaking from that narrative.
Yeah,
exactly. I also find it interesting, like, obviously doing the rewatch, the parallels between what happens at the end of season 2 and the beginning of season 15, with, like, souls escaping from hell.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're more elegant solution to that.
Yeah. Because
obviously in season 3, they don't know how to contain anything, and this time they managed to contain it. They have this network, and it's like going back in time but learning from your mistakes.
Yeah.
But
I don't like that sentence for reasons.
But then they didn't follow that through.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's
yeah, and that I feel like that whole thing with hell, that's the only kind of plot line that they've managed to close up nicely and neatly, and in a way that made sense with Rowena.
Yeah.
Like, her character arc was the only one that was locked nicely, and like, this is how you do it here.
Yeah.
It's like, why didn't you do that for everything else?
I also think Garth got a good ending too.
No, yeah, Garth, yeah.
given his situation, he got a good ending.
Okay, fine. I'm not going to mention Purgatory here.
Oh no, I take it all back.
Oh yeah. All right.
Benny.
So yeah, Rowena is
God.
the only one, and I think it's interesting that is an antagonist turn protagonist that got the best ending. Like, what does that mean?
What?
Like, she was following in her son's footsteps. What?
I love Rowena. When we get to her, I have things to say. But you're right. I think she was the only one who got a satisfying ending.
Yeah.
I think Ruth would agree with that as well. But it does kind of question, if they knew that was a good ending, why they couldn't do it for absolutely anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if it's because she ends up in hell. I do wonder if people, like, the writers was like, oh, it's a bad ending because she ended up in hell. But it's just like, no.
No.
Not at all.
The queen?
I guess also, you know, we've seen the rotation of rulers of hell in this series. Like, there's been at least 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But, like, no, that's not... Because it's ending, she's the queen of hell, and she will forever be the queen of hell. Like, that's what it is.
There are a lot of, like, plot lines and, like, character arcs that just did not get a resolution.
Yeah.
Like, starting with Kevin.
No, okay, I don't know if this has come out yet, but we were talking about this because, alright, they say about Kevin that he can't go to heaven because he went to hell. Right.
Coughs in John Winchester.
Yes. John Winchester. Dean.
Bobby.
Well, Bobby was taken by an angel, so I guess he doesn't count. There's another one. There's more. But, like...
There's more.
Why not Kevin, then? Like...
I don't know, because I don't know. That's as good as I have for you.
It's... And especially being a prophet, like, surely that would get him a pass. Like,
yeah,
right?
like, it's like, I am, like, you get to hell and they're like, hi, what are you here for? And you're like, well, actually, I'm a prophet, so, and they're like, oh yeah, sorry, our mistake, you go up.
The only explanation to this is the bad explanation. That they were going to resolve all of this with the roadhouse scene at the end of 1520, and we would have seen Kevin there to prove that he was in heaven, and, like, yeah, okay, but show don't tell. Like, refilm it then, like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Suspend, like, we could have waited, probably, maybe.
Yeah, for like a year at least.
Yeah.
They could have said, you know, production's, we want to do this scene, so production's going to be put off until it's safe.
Just go film them all in a field together. I'll be happy with that. Let's do that.
Like awkward 1.5 meter gaps between people. It's fine. I'd be satisfied.
Exactly.
Just people between cars.
It's a drive-up movie theater with Kansas playing.
Exactly.
A live show.
Annabelle, you solved this.
What? There were ways. Why didn't they hire you for this? Is beyond me.
I know. I'm just great. I'm just kidding.
But yeah, you're right. Kevin, terrible ending for Kevin.
Yes.
Awful.
Yeah. I mean, sorry to come back to Kevin just for a second.
No.
Kevin... His entire arc is just tragedy after tragedy after tragedy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he does not get a win.
No.
Yeah. I read this poem on Tumblr by someone, and I don't recall the name, but like, shout out to you, you know who you are. It's a poem about Kevin, where like Kevin needs a freaking break, and he like deserves to say screw you Winchesters and just walk off.
Yeah.
Like, that's what Kevin needed, and he never got that, and I'm very angry.
Yeah.
So Osric Chow, like, he's an amazing acrobat, like, does all this martial arts stuff. They could have utilized it. I know, obviously, he came on when he was a kid, and he wasn't doing that, and he's grown into that. But, like, they could have brought him back to fight.
Yeah.
Or, I don't know, or something. And just, like, made use of the actor's amazing skills. Like,
yeah.
I follow
feel
him
like
on
you've
Instagram. I'm
summarized
like,
a bunch of things now.
Yeah. Making use of people's amazingness. Yeah, I know.
There are a lot of people. Ruby and that entire thing with Cass, which is like... Because what happens at some point, and I do not know when, because did season 15 even happen? Cass goes into the empty and meets Ruby. And also Meg, but Meg is the empty, but not, and I don't know. But, like, Cass goes, meets Ruby, and Ruby is like, please get me out of here. And Cass is like, you bet. And then that never happens. So, why?
Yeah, exactly. The empty never got resolved. I mean, there's so many characters that are there that they were sort of maybe planning to utilize and never did. I guess Ruby's still in the empty, but she's a bad guy, so she gets a bad ending. That's the rules.
It seemed very strange, because to me, Ruby got, like, a proper ending to her character.
Yes.
Because she was, like, an antagonist and went into sympathetic character. She had me completely fooled, by the way. And then she, like, broke bad, as it were. And then she got stabbed, you know, as... you do. And then they brought her back for some reason. Just opened up things that didn't need to be opened up. Obviously, none of the core, like, cast got a satisfying ending. For reasons. They got pain. That's what they got.
Maybe Bobby, but Bobby just dies, so...
No, but Bobby didn't get a satisfying ending when he got his ending in the show.
Yeah, that's true.
He got kind of like a middle-of-the-road ending. I think it was kind of interesting that he technically didn't die because he was, I don't know, mauled by a werewolf. He died because he got shot.
Yeah.
Which... that felt... I remember that happening, and that felt really, like... It really brought me out of the, like... show in like a good way.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, by the way, outside world things also happen. And suddenly it wasn't like supernatural influence, Bobby is in the purgatory empty thing, hell, whatever. No, it was just like, yeah, he got shot. That happens sometimes. Yeah. Someone had a gun.
Yeah, I initially liked Bobby's ending. I almost kind of wish they hadn't brought back an alternate version of him. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That felt strange. I get why they did it. I'm not too opposed, but it was a little interesting of a move.
And it also, you know, sort of harkens back to what I said about underutilizing him, because he came back, but like, not really. Like he sort of fulfilled his old role, but not in the same way, because they didn't Sam and Dean didn't necessarily need him in that way anymore.
Yeah.
So they couldn't really use Bobby as that father figure anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Or did they? That's the other question, right? Because we didn't get to see enough of them interacting.
Yeah.
To gauge whether or not they did need that kind of a father figure in their lives, right?
I mean, it doesn't help that, Mary's there too. So it's like they have their real parent.
Yeah.
Which, again, with the whole theme of like found family, it seems kind of.
Yeah. No. Well, but she was kind of. I feel like she fit under the general blanket of found family because she did not know them and they did not know her.
I agree.
This is true. She didn't get a great ending neither.
No.
Really.
No. I was angry because she got the typical, like, we need some kind of motivation for our male characters, so what are we gonna do? Kill a woman!
Yeah. It's precisely what happened. I was so shocked. I was actually very shocked by Mary's death. Like, that was the one thing.
I was like, they're gonna bring her back. They're not
Me
bringing
too.
her back. What?
Like, legitimately shocking. And I know they needed to use it for man pain, and, like, her death is even used in this season, because Dean blames Cass throughout this whole season.
Yeah.
Until he doesn't. About Mary.
And I feel like that happens for good reason, as in, he does blame Cass, and for good reason, because to an extent it is Cass's fault.
Yeah.
Not as much as Dean probably thinks.
Right.
But, it's an interesting point of contention that I do think is at least initially carried out nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Then they make up because people are gonna die. I guess I can't just be angry at you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There are things there that don't fit together, but I'll allow it, But Mary's death, no.
It was like all female deaths on this gosh darn show.
Yeah.
Bar maybe like one or two. It was unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was very much plot device.
Yeah. I'm wondering if we should include Ketch in that category of people killed for man pain.
Yeah.
Women killed for man pain. Ketch. I was angry. I am probably like one of the very small demographic of people who actually enjoyed Ketch.
I know, I'm with you. I liked Ketch. I enjoyed his episodes. I thought he was snarky. I thought he was funny.
Yeah.
And
and
he
it's
was
like,
a good, British villain.
It was a comic relief we needed, even though it wasn't supposed to be.
Yeah. I really enjoyed him. The jury's still out whether or not he needed or deserved a redemption arc, but him going to the hospital, whoop, you get stabbed by a demon. Goodbye. That was... I remember, that entire sequence of episodes, because I kind of, bunch up the first 3 seasons together, because it's, I don't know, it feels like the longest opener to a Supernatural season yet, which makes sense, because it really ends at, what was it, Rapture.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That opener. And Ketch dying is really? You why? You didn't know what to do with him, so you murdered?
It's kind of interesting that, every antagonist that becomes sympathetic or protagonist with the boys seems to get weaker, right?
Yeah.
Apart from Rowena. Rowena, she was still out for herself.
No, because Rowena wasn't a man. What you want to
true.
say is every man that gets affiliated with the Winchesters
becomes weaker, and I'm just like, how was Ketch so good to then just be stabbed?
Yeah, it felt so out of character. The man should have had I don't know, chainmail on him at all times.
Yeah, I do feel like they killed Ketch for shock value.
Yeah.
Just because it was the last season. That's literally the only reason why.
Yeah.
And they were starting to kill people off.
Yeah.
And I kind of was expecting it. I was like, how are all these characters going to die? Because I know Supernatural so well, I guess.
I feel like we must. This is a tidbit. Last call.
Mm-hmm.
Lee?
Yes.
Why? There are some moments, and I'm gonna let you in a second. I'm gonna ask you a question of what you think about this, but there are moments in Supernatural where it's like we only see a certain window that is important to the storytelling.
Yes.
And it's not unreasonable to say that the scenes we see matter because someone decided that they matter.
Mm-hmm.
So like in every person's life, it's not like that. Like I drink water and that probably doesn't matter to the grand scheme of my storytelling of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But like if I see Dean drinking water, that's probably going to mean something other than, you know, he's just a human who has thirst.
Yeah.
So like seeing moments like there are a few moments with Dean where I feel like there is just a why? What was that about? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why? If not, you know, then why? And I feel like Lee's entire episode is that. There is like homoerotic subtext. They were dating. That's the consensus of this episode. And yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about that?
See, I didn't rewatch that episode, so the thing that I took away from that episode, which I have to go back and rewatch, was they somehow wanted to have a musical episode, but they didn't know how to do it.
So they made it gay.
You know, so they made it gay. I mean, how else are you going to do a musical without making it Glee, right?
Yeah.
Is it, again, trying to play on people's emotion? Because, you know, Dean showing this connection to a human, and, you know, it's very obvious that they're very close, but then this person betrays him.
Yeah.
To me, so last call,
Mm-hmm.
I do remember watching it, and it was so nice for Dean to have a friend. Do you know what I mean? Like someone he knew
Yeah.
from his childhood that like we'd never heard of before. And I was saying this in like the early seasons. Dean is a very lonely person. Like he doesn't have any friends. You know, he doesn't know anybody other than other hunters. And to see him like, I mean, obviously Lee is a hunter, but
Yeah. But not anymore.
Yeah,
right?
not anymore. Lee is Dean, right?
Yeah.
He's Dean if he got out of the life. He owns
But
a
he's
bar.
also Dean if he got out of the life, but also not entirely, which is still Dean.
Mm-hmm. It's confusing. Like I found, I didn't get it because it felt when he killed Lee in the episode, it felt like Dean projecting himself almost in a way that sorry, because it's back to way back when he finds out Lee is a monster, kills him.
Yeah.
Where's the nuance? Where's the shades of grey? Where, like, what? I know he feels regret over it. It's very sad.
Yeah.
But where did that nuance go? I think it's only with a rewatch that I see the subtext of that episode, because I'll be honest, when I first watched it, I did not see it.
Mm.
Yeah, neither did I.
There was just a tad too much bisexual lighting for me to completely gloss over that.
But I think people are going to disagree with me this hard, I feel. I think if you read it as Lee is a version of Dean, it makes sense. You know, they're the same age. Lee owns a bar. We know that's always been Dean's dream, and we kind of see what's come of it. And that life apparently doesn't work for a hunter.
Yeah. Which is a big fat lie.
Mm-hmm.
But
you were saying before about Chuck orchestrating these moments for them to show them how it was going to go. And I think this was another version of that. It maybe wasn't a coincidence that Dean ran into Lee, showed him the life that he could have had, open or not. Like, I love the bisexual meanings of this episode are perfect. And then made Dean kill Lee.
yeah. Oh, bleh. I dislike this show.
I mean, it's not a far off concept though, because we've seen, you know, Sam and Dean kill versions of themselves before, like not obvious versions, but like this kind of parallel. I can't say the word.
Parallelogram.
We've seen this kind of thing happen before.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Mm-hmm.
If I can't say a word, I'm going to find another way to say it.
That is completely fine.
I can't think of an example right now, but there are definitely. When you said it, Amy, I was like that. It's tingling something in my mind that they've had, like, Dean's had to kill a version of himself before.
Yeah.
But I can't remember what it was. So
Benny.
Yeah, I think of Benny. I think of his daughter.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, sorry, we're making this way worse for Jay than it needed to be.
No, it's fine. I was expecting this, but also, like, Benny is on the list of characters that didn't get a satisfying ending. Yeah, Dean goes in, the trap. He goes into Purgatory, and he asks, like, where's Benny? And someone says, oh yeah, Benny's dead. And it's like, okay, I guess.
I know.
Thanks.
Just
Shock
to go
value.
back to last call, because I feel like we didn't give you a satisfying ending. What's your interpretation of that episode?
My interpretation of that episode?
Sorry, Jay, you don't have to answer.
Oh god, no, because I feel like it really feels a little interesting in that way, because on one hand, it's like, it does definitely feel like, oh, Dean is killing a version of himself. On the other hand, it feels like Dean is setting, like, his past behind him, in a way. Like, because Lee looked up to Dean's dad a lot.
Yeah.
And he was, like, talking about the good old days and all that, like, making these connections to times Dean either doesn't or doesn't want to remember fondly, And so if we look at it through the lens of Lee as Dean, he's a bit more, like, the whole bisexuality thing, he's a bit more open, but at the same time he's a lot more hung up on the past. And I feel like in some ways Dean knifing Lee is like severing that link to his past in some ways.
I can see that too. I can definitely see that too. Because of the past they have, and you're right, like, the tie-in with John, it could be a rejection. Dean rejecting, you're right, his, like, hang-ups.
Yeah.
I like that better than our sad version.
Dean is rejecting himself. No, it's just his dad. And we're gonna hold on to that, like, dying men.
I mean, it's happened before, Dean rejecting John in this way, because Gordon is so clearly John, all the bad bits of John. And Dean outright betrays and rejects him first episode they meet. So I don't think it's necessarily a stretch at all.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole thing with Chuck. Chuck is a bit of a stand-in for John as well.
Oh,
and
yes.
And Dean turns on Chuck, like, and that whole, there is like an emotion, I do not know which season or what episode, but there's like an emotional scene where Dean is like screaming at Chuck, like, how could you do it? How could you leave? How could you leave your children behind? So, and that's like clearly Chuck equals John.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
I feel like there are all of those notes, and they're all leading somewhere, but it's not where we got.
Well, I mean, with like many shows that go on for, I don't want to say too long, because, well, it kind of does.
Yeah, you want to say too long.
Because things clearly get forgotten, and we know that the actors in the show love the show, right? So they'll remember certain things, like we know from the last scene of 1520.
Yeah.
1518 as well.
Yeah, 1518, because I was like, I thought you were going to say 1518, you were like, of the season, and I was like, that's correct.
I mean, I try, whenever I have to mention that episode, I try to do it, mumble it. So I do wonder if, like, the actors don't get much choice in how a story's going to go. So they just have to take their sort of acting choices and sort of lay it that way, which you definitely kind of see with 1519 when they confront Chuck.
It's like, I saw it somewhere. It's very interesting because season 15 is basically like Dean is having many emotions and Sam is slowly melting into the wallpaper of whatever room he's standing in.
Yeah.
Which is
I mean, excuse the pun here, but Jared definitely plays it straight. Right?
Yes.
He does. He doesn't. There's not many plot points in later season where I feel like he really resonates with his character. Like his whole Lucifer bit, I loved that.
Yeah, that was like
when he got his soul back.
Yeah, I don't want to like hop like I don't know jump the horse here, but I feel like that's one of the last moments that Sam really gets like a solid storyline.
Yeah.
Beyond being Dean's brother.
Yeah, beyond being Dean's brother, eating like rabid food and running.
Yeah.
Like, what do I know about Sam? Not much, actually.
I mean, this is true, and it's interesting in season 15 how their outlook on life really shifted. I mean, through all of the seasons, and now, we've said it, like, Sam's always been optimistic. He's been like, we can solve this, we can do this, like, there must be a way through. Dean is generally the pessimistic one of like, well, we can, but what are we going to have to sacrifice? What are we going to have to lose?
Yeah.
It really does shift in season 15 because you see Sam really give up hope in a way that he hasn't before. Like over and over again as well as their plans kind of fail. Whereas Dean's very like, no, we can do this. Like he has something to fight for. Whereas I feel like they didn't really give Sam the motivation sometimes.
Does Dean have something to fight for, or does he just get really angry and doesn't know where to put it? That's my other question, and I'm gonna hit on that a little bit more. But since we're on Sam, I want to run away with that kid for a second here, because this kind of brings me to your comment about him playing it straight. This brings me to ships, and that's great. So this is my general thoughts on how Destiel and Saline kind of parallel each other in this season, and why the writers wrote themselves into a corner, and that's why we got neither relationship. Yes. So basically, they couldn't be more obvious with what they're doing, because in what was it? In Golden Time, it becomes apparent that Aileen is like also out of hell, that she was in hell, also why, fine. And Sam is tasked with rescuing her and bringing her back to life. And it's completely irrelevant that it was orchestrated by Chuck, because everything was orchestrated by Chuck. Yeah. And I have it written here. It begins with Sam pulling Aileen out of hell.
Oh my God, you're right. I never looked at it like that, actually.
Where's her burn mark?
There we go.
Just kidding.
So that's kind of like the very beginning of that, like, very overarching parallel. And then in, like, The Trap, which is kind of the turning point for their relationship, it's a turning point for, like, Dean and Cass's relationship also, but in the other way. Yeah. So, like, Sam and Aileen are, like, get through this entire difficult situation of, like, Chuck kidnapping them and then using them against each other. Haven't we seen that before somewhere? And then Aileen is like, I can't be with you because I don't know what's real and what isn't. And Sam kisses her and says, I know that was real. Yeah. Which, by the way, break my heart, why don't you? Yeah. And then it mirrors the thing that happens in season at the very beginning of the season, where Cass and Dean have a conversation, and Cass says, you asked me what about this is real. We are. Yes. So, like, casually just paralleling these two, no big deal. That's kind of this whole thing that Aileen then comes around, and, and in The Trap, obviously Cass comes back, and it's this big reunion between Dean and Cass, and they forgive each other. And so they wrote that. They set all of that up. They set all of that up. And it's like, it's not even just that. At the end of Give Me Shelter and the beginning of Despair, Well, there was the entire 2 episodes.
Yes.
It's like Sam is running after Aileen because he's worried about her because she's about to get, like, Avengers Endgamed out of this world. And then Dean, what does Dean do? Well, he's running around the bunker with Cass. And so, like, Sam ignores the world to run to Aileen, and Dean ignores the world to sit in a room and cry because the empty took Cass. Casual parallels. So then, like, they set these up, and they were like, oh crap, one is a straight relationship, the other is 2 men, oh no. So they were like, we cannot proceed with either of these. Panic. Like, someone panicked, and they were like, don't mention him, blurry wife.
Yeah. Because I remember November 5th. The point was being made by a lot of people that in that episode, we saw a lot of parallels at the beginning, because Charlie lost her girlfriend, she just disappeared. Sam lost Eileen, she just disappeared. And Dean lost Cass. Okay? And it was very clearly, like, one after the other, this happened. And of course, everyone was like, oh my god, guys, it's gonna be canon. Because I do remember, and, like, I'm sure people have different memories of the night of November 5th. It was very late for me because I'm in the UK and I was watching it live. And 1518 was only the beginning for me of that setup. Because of the parallels. Again, Charlie lost her girlfriend, Sam lost Eileen, Dean lost Cass. The only logical conclusion next week that we're going to see is that they're all reunited.
Yeah.
Because what didn't make sense to me in 1519 was that we saw no one come back.
Yes. We saw everybody come back, but nobody came back.
And there was no reason for them not to. Not even COVID, and I'm sure I've made this point before. If you're gonna have people just shooting things, if you're gonna have people disappear, you would shoot them reappearing on the same day.
Yeah, because of scheduling reasons.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So either that footage exists or it doesn't. Either someone cut it out or they didn't. I never made the parallel before of Sam pulling Eileen out of how I love that so much. Annabelle's right. Yeah. Where is her mark? Somewhere indiscreet.
There's every. She was also. Dean was pulled out of dirt, but she was also pulled out of water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which 2 very suffocating elements.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's also religious in a way.
Yeah.
Like him pulling out her bath water, like
it's like being baptized.
Yeah.
Very big like parallels to that. Just imagery.
I do have to say the relationship between Eileen and Sam, I didn't see it. Like,
a lot of people are screaming right now. Quick, you have to.
I know.
To give us.
Like, I don't know what it was, but there's something about, maybe it was just like on-screen chemistry. I just didn't feel like they had, like, all the times that they had interacted, there wasn't anything that really led me to believe that they would want to start a relationship.
Right.
Which doesn't mean to say that you can't, like, you can build chemistry, but, like, I don't know, there was just something about it that I was like, this feels weird. Even his on-screen chemistry with Sarah in season 1 felt more real than Eileen in my mind. And I think maybe it's just because I'm not remembering all of their interactions properly. I could be blocking out a little bit, but when they're on screen together, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I guess they could be dating. But, like, when he goes on a date in, like, that holiday episode, I can't remember what it's called.
We don't see Eileen,
but
actually. This is
what Jay was saying. They didn't commit to the relationship on the show because they panicked.
Yeah.
So we didn't get all those sweet moments between Sam and Eileen that maybe you would expect to see in a relationship that's supposed to be as strong as theirs, because they didn't fully commit to it. And that's true from what we saw in 1520. Like, they didn't commit to that relationship. They decided that it wasn't going to go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wasn't... But the thing is, there's nothing in their relationship on screen that I would think it wouldn't work out either. You know,
Right.
They had been through so much together.
Yeah, and I feel like it's the classic Supernatural issue of like, we've had so many fillers but never had a beach episode.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's the for a very long time I struggled to see why people thought that Dean and Cass were such great friends, because for all the chemistry that they have, we don't ever really see them spending any time together.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens for Sam and Aileen. Like, it's all implied, there are all of these moments. There's even a deleted scene between them, which I think is very sweet and cute and has like chemistry between Sam and Aileen, which is the one where Aileen stays in Sam's room and finds porn under his bed. And she's like, I have to applaud you. Like, most guys have porn under their beds, but your room is kind of like clean, but you have all this witchy stuff that's kind of creepy. And then Dean, like, you know, tells Eileen by just moving his lips, like, oh, he has porn. And she's like, I know. Which is, and Cass is silently just dying of laughter under, like, a wall somewhere. Which, that was a great scene. What happened? Where is it?
And we only see, like, with Dean and Cass, we only see flashes of their friendship. I feel like we do fill in a lot of gaps as a fandom into what their interactions are actually like.
Yeah.
Tombstone's a good example of their friendship, right?
The Dean Cave.
The Dean Cave is great. I think some of their interactions in Scooby Natural was quite good as well. Season 5, there's some good moments in there. But they're like, it's like interludes between crises, and we needed the beach episode. We needed it to build their friendship. And between Sam and Eileen, as well as Dean and Cass, and between Dean and Eileen, and between Sam and Cass, because I maintain that Cass and Sam are friends. They're very good friends. And when they're together, it's really funny. And I think they should have shown more of it. The same with Dean and Eileen, like picking on Sam. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Prank wars between Team Sam, Cass, and Dean Aileen.
Exactly.
Like, what's...
It would...
Like, we've gotten so many, like, filler episodes of, like, just cookie-cutter cases of, like, we go, we get the ghost, goodbye. We instead could have had, like, actual character moments that were significant.
As horrible as this is, they didn't want to stray from, like, the fact that this is supposed to be a horror show.
Yeah, but it hasn't been a horror show since, like, season 5?
Yeah. I know. I completely agree with that, but
Kripke left, took all the horror with him.
Actually, you know what? I retract my statement that because some of the others, like, they could have had a beach episode. I'm sure, like, we know that Dean's afraid of flying. Yeah. Wouldn't it be hilarious if, like, Cass is afraid of, like, big bodies of water? I know he's not, because he's gone to the bottom of the ocean to get stuff, but, like... Yeah,
but still.
Or they could have hunted a mermaid. Dean saying, like, a freaking mermaid? Like, I can hear it in my brain. Like,
or someone dropped a cursed object on the beach, and now they're, like, scouring with a metal detector.
Yeah.
Like...
There could have been a Monster of the Week reason for them to go to the beach.
Yeah, exactly. But it just never happened.
Or like, there's a lot of other ones where they do stupid stuff because of the Monster of the Week. Like, that whole thing where they worked in a gym, that was a pretty weird episode.
Yeah, I loved it. That one contains my favorite quote by Dean, which I laugh maniacally at every time I see it. It's like, they captured the monster, and she sits there in the chair, and Dean is like, what are you? And she's like, a fish taco. And he's like, a fish taco? And that was the funniest thing. But it's just the character moments that we could have had, but we didn't get. Yeah.
And I don't feel like they didn't have enough time either.
Yeah.
They had time to put it in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's been 15 goddamn seasons, not one beach episode. I call baloney.
Yeah.
Baloney!
Yeah. two things I want to really quickly touch up on.
Of course.
Before we get into rants on more organized rants on the ending itself in tinfoil hatting central. There were two things that jump out at me. I'm gonna touch on the hero's journey and the gamblers first.
Yeah.
Those are the two episodes where Chuck takes away all of their luck, and they start Dean suddenly has cavities, and Sam trips on the stairs and gets really sick, and they go see Garth about it, and then they go to Alaska, which, when I was first watching it, I was like, that's Supernatural is reaching. Have they pulled any muscles? Because, what is happening? But at the same time, I feel like it, writes itself really nicely into the meta-narrative.
Yeah.
Because this is what it means to me. Chuck decided to go screw himself and was like, I'm leaving you, fend for yourselves, you're nothing without me. And then they're like, no, actually, we have a family and they're gonna help us and we're gonna do the free will thing and we're gonna go deal with it without your help.
Yeah.
Which is so meta. Because it's there was this one moment when the CW put Supernatural on a weird day for to air on TV. Yeah. And I think I have a specific soundbite in my head from Jared saying it they put us on Friday at 9 to die and we didn't die.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's it, isn't it? I mean, I love those episodes with Garth. I'm so glad they brought him back. I love him as a character, just generally. I think those two episodes are great. I'm glad they wrote them.
Yeah.
Because one, they were really funny. And two, because it does show that they are fully fine and capable without Chuck.
Yeah.
Because of their found family.
Exactly.
And I would say that without their family, how well would they get on? You have to wonder.
Yeah.
One thing I don't remember from that episode is, so they do win their fortune from Fortuna, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we think that Chuck ever gave them their luck back, or were they purely cashing in on Fortuna's luck for the rest of the season?
I think the way Dean goes in 1520, I feel like the luck's run out.
Yeah.
Because it's that's just, it's uncharacteristic of Dean to, it's vamps. Come on.
Well, so I do wonder if Jack's reset might have, I mean, again, all conspiracy right now, but Jack's reset did something to his luck.
Yeah.
They just took all kind of outside influences off of them.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
That's the only explanation I'm going with. Fine. But yeah, it parallels the meta-narrative so beautifully that Supernatural never dies no matter what they did to it. Chuck is the network.
Chuck is the network. Do you want to see another example of why Chuck is the network?
Absolutely.
Because I have it ready for you. Look at this beautiful segue. So coming back to Our Father Who Aren't in Heaven and The Trap, there's this whole thing, especially in The Trap, where, Sammy goes and it's this whole ordeal with Chuck showing him the alternative ending.
Yes.
Which is the one where they turn into vampires and then murder everybody. And the monsters are winning, essentially, because Chuck isn't present anymore, and apparently Chuck is the one that is keeping, the monsters in check, which is an interesting thesis. I don't understand how that works, but fine. And so there are kind of two meta-narratives to explore here. The first one being, this is kind of their in-story alternate ending, which is a pretty grim and dark one. Also, I don't know how probable, and I don't know how much I believe Chuck in that he says it's the ending and it's real and it's true and I've seen it, because Chuck lies.
Yeah.
But it also feels slightly uncharacteristic of them because Dean has been a vampire before. And he was very much of the mind of I'd rather die than kill people.
Yeah.
So just kill me, please. And in this ending, they were very much monsters that are eating everybody.
So if you look at God in religion, like especially in like Catholic religion, like Catholic Christian, God is terrifying, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So of course he would show the thing that would scare you the most.
Yeah.
Right.
And what scares Sam the most is becoming a monster. We've known this since season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though it has happened, he has become like in season 6, he was pretty much a monster in that for a little bit.
Oh, but he didn't know. It's fine.
You're right. It doesn't make sense that would be the ending, and why would Sam believe that? Because they know good vampires too. I mean, Sam maybe doesn't trust Benny or didn't trust Benny. Fine.
Yeah.
But they know that you can live in. Was Chuck trying to show them that the Earth would be almost like purgatory?
Yeah.
The monsters would overrun completely and they kind of give into all their like baser instincts, I guess, of like eating people. I think Dean would have been fine with that. That sounds really bad, but like I feel like monsters is something they know how to contain. Like I don't understand why they are a bigger threat than Chuck at this point.
Yeah.
I didn't get this. I didn't understand from Sam's point of view why he believed Chuck and why it was such a threat.
Yeah.
A little bit of poor writing, I guess, because...
But then was it? Because to me, it opened this very interesting door, and I'm sure this was accidental, as most good things on Supernatural, where it's like, was this intentional? Was this true? Did he lie? How much did he lie?
Mm-hmm.
You know? And this kind of ties really neatly into kind of the next thing that I'm going to hit on, but if you have any, like, thoughts on this, then...
So there was that whole thing, I can't remember, was it season 4 where it's like a flash forward and...
Oh, season 5, the end, yeah?
Yeah. So, again, is God just, or is Chuck just showing Sam, because in that Sam's Lucifer and he's taken over the world and is all crazy and stuff. Is Chuck showing, not necessarily like making all of this up, but just showing Sam's worst fears?
Well, I think it comes out that he was showing them like an alternate version of what could happen, right? Or at least Chuck says that's what it was, or something. There are other things in that flash forward that maybe would give Sam pause. I think the vampire thing is maybe not all of it. The fact that they lose everyone that they love, like Cass is in the Malik box. I'm not even sure what happens to Eileen in that flash.
She's completely omitted, gutted, whatever.
Exactly. So maybe, it's showing an alternate reality where they did defeat Chuck, but in the process, everyone they loved died, so they became vampires. Interesting, though. That's actually precisely what happens. And they don't become vampires. So Chuck was lying.
Yeah. But how much?
The thing is, maybe Chuck can only show them alternate realities.
Yeah, possibly.
And not actually projections. Anyway. Talking about God powers.
Yeah, talking about God powers over here.
I mean, really, he should be able to show them anything.
Yeah.
Right? He should be unlimitless.
Well, but then he's still weak, technically, in that episode because of his link with Sam. So, there is a question of that. Which, again, just completely accidental, interesting plot point that doesn't get resolved, and I'm kind of happy it doesn't.
It was weird that the whole Leviathan Blossom bit of this was very odd to me, because basically it was an excuse for Dean and Cass to go to Purgatory.
Yeah, they didn't know how to... They didn't know how to bring them together, so they were like, find a flower.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
It was very much just like exposition, like, oh, we need Dean and Cass to kind of sort out their differences. Let's give them a task to do, and then that's not actually worth anything in the end. I mean,
I'm not upset at them for doing that, because we got some of the most beautiful scenes out of Purgatory, but, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Go on.
that entire meta-narrative that we were talking about kind of ties nicely into this thought. There is the way kind of writing of Supernatural happened after the first few seasons was the writers were hired, they had a basic idea of what would be the big bad in the season, but everything else, all of the other episodes were kind of just happening as the show went along. So at some point, like at any given point, the writers might be like 5 to 7 episodes ahead of the shooting. So they don't really know how things are going to end, and things can change. Yeah. And this kind of connects very much with the fact that there is an alternative ending to the trap.
Yeah.
Which is they don't, like, Sammy doesn't give up, and they trap God, and Cass gets the Mark of Cain. That has been shot.
Yeah.
So that means that the day that they were, like, shooting that episode, they were like, we have no idea which version we're gonna go with. So they had no clue how the show was gonna end. And here is my question. Does that mean that we could have gotten the ending that Chuck showed Sam in that episode, that we were actually seeing glimpses of what would then become next episodes of the show, and that narrative would get built up on?
I mean, I think you're right in that I don't think they knew how it was going to end.
Yeah.
And you're right, they had to film all of that. Like, it happened. I would have still been mad at it, I feel, with that ending.
Yeah.
Like, but it could have played... Okay, so the same beats, the same emotional beats that happen in the last few episodes could have still been maintained with that ending of Cass taking on the Mark of Cain and going into the Malak books. Like, that could have easily replaced Despair in 1518. Them becoming vampires could have easily replaced 1520. I mean...
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on how they scheduled it. I'm not necessarily convinced that... I can't see them ending the show like that.
No. But it's an interesting, I think, question of... It was filmed. Like, they had no idea how to deal with it, and so they filmed both versions.
That's gonna sit with me.
You're welcome. I'm sorry.
Give me a week and I'll give you an answer, because right now I'm just like, oh,
text
gosh.
me.
Yeah.
I want to know.
because you're right, that could have set up a different descent into the ending that we got.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they had this outline and they maybe somebody had said something and like, this is not a good ending.
So they wrote a worse one?
Yeah.
So they came up with another one and they were like, oh crap, this is what we got now. Or, well, no, because we know that they filmed it late in the year too, so, I don't know.
Yeah. It's questions.
I do fully believe that the scripts changed in the COVID break. Like that's my, like, I fully believe that someone would have to show me physical evidence for me to not believe that anymore.
Yeah.
And it would make sense if there was an alternate ending with some of the things that happened around the finale and some of the comments that were made and some of the choices of the actors. And what's interesting is if they had this alternate ending, so why didn't they just use that?
Yeah.
Rather than getting everyone back for, tin hatting aside, it doesn't make sense that they wouldn't use it if they knew, because COVID locked them down. We have all this. Why wouldn't you use it?
Yeah.
I also need to go and sit with this.
Yeah. you have time when you start talking about season 15 in 17 years of doing this podcast. You'll be able to give me a satisfactory answer, and I will sit and listen to that then.
Thanks.
I'll be like, yes.
We'll call back to this episode and thank you for this horrendous thought. No, I'm just kidding.
There you go.
I don't think I personally could have dealt with an ending where Cass is in the Malik box. I feel like that's worse than the Empty.
Yeah, it really is. There have been fics. I'm not okay. So this kind of, that's most of what I wanted to talk about, and then obviously there's the ending here. One really funny thing from Galaxy Brain or Destiny's Child, I don't remember which one it was, I have them bunched together. There is like a situation where it's becoming apparent that Chuck is coming back because he was on his kick of like different alternative realities and timelines. And I'm like, meta text, God has finished destroying other CW shows, I mean other universes, and is gonna get interested in the CW Supernatural again. Foreshadowing, I don't like it. I have brought up interesting, I got curious after the clowning, and I thought to check the statistics on what shows on the CW were the most popular and when and all that.
Okay, cool.
And so, as of, like, all of time, Supernatural is obviously the most popular one. It's not necessarily surprising because it's just the longest.
Yeah.
Then there's Riverdale, The Flash, Gilmore Girls, of all things. And then The Vampire Diaries. And what piqued my interest is that all of the CW's shows over the last year have lost anywhere between 20 to 50% of their viewership. Supernatural lost 26, which obviously the show has ended. But it's been mostly just things have been dropping, except for 2 shows, one of which was cancelled. No, both of which were cancelled.
Yeah.
So, do with that what you will. But it just seemed funny to me, so I wanted to mention.
I mean, I am not surprised that, you know, they lost viewership. I don't know who's in charge of that network, but so in grad school, like every Thursday, a group of us would go to our like common room in our dorm or our building and have CW Thursdays. And so we would watch, it's Vampire Day. I don't remember what we called it. But on Thursdays we would watch Glee, which I sat through because I don't like Glee. Then we'd watch Vampire Diaries. And then I would stay on, I think Supernatural was on after that. And like, so we did this for, I think, 2 years. Yeah. At the end of the 2 years, everybody who I was with was just like, with Vampire Diaries. Like, they get to the point where it gets really overly complicated with their shows.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who has watched most of Vampire Diaries, so I can concur.
Yeah. Like, so I got into it. So I watched it when Vampire Diaries, when it first came out, like, years ago. And then I dropped out of it because I was like, well, I'll have other things to watch. So getting back into it, I was like, oh yeah, this is really cool. And then I was like, oh no, this is really not good.
Yeah. The way it ended,
I mean, I don't even know how it ended. Like, I completely lost interest.
It ended upsettingly very similar to Supernatural. Basically, one brother dies so that the other brother can continue living. It's very BS, and we don't like it, is the general consensus.
So what it's coming down to is the CW doesn't know how to end shows.
No.
So they kill them before it gets to the end, so there won't be people there to watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah. What's interesting with Supernatural is the more people that I talk to that have been with the show for as long as maybe like me and Annabelle have, so I'm talking like a decade. Oh my god. And like their experience with it. And some people have been with Supernatural all the way through. A common theme I'm seeing is people dropping out in season 10.
Yeah.
And that was my experience. I dropped out in season 10. I came back when I heard that it was going to be the final season, caught up before that season started airing, and then finished watching it. But I'll be honest, it was a very casual view of like 11 to 14. Because it's okay, but it's not. Yeah, it's not Supernatural in its heyday.
Yeah. I have a friend who was like, I used to be like a huge fan, and then season 10 happened, and I was like, too much.
And I can't remember what it was in season 10 that turned me off of Supernatural. I can't
Neither
remember what the trigger was.
I feel like the Amara plotline had a lot of people just dropping out, because to me that was not good. Like, I loved the Mark of Cain.
Yeah, same.
But then everything that happened sort of afterwards, and first of all, who was an antagonist in the Mark of Cain plotline? Nobody knows. Dean, possibly. I don't know. Because the antagonists there they were just kind of completely irrelevant. But then the Amara thing is like, oh yes, God's sister, and then they talk, and that's it.
I would say, I think, from a perspective of a shipper, that season 8 was so good.
Yeah.
Season 8 was so good. Like, height of the fandom, season 8. Like, I went to conventions, like, it was great. And I feel like with season 15, we thought we knew where the show was going in season 8, and then it never got there.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily just saying, like, Destiel. I think just a general story arc of where it was going and how it would end. Like, I felt maybe Supernatural could go for another 2 seasons.
Yeah.
And then it just kept going.
And it didn't stop.
Yeah, and it didn't stop, and nothing really changed in the dynamic of the characters at all.
No beach episodes.
No beach episodes. And it's interesting when people talk about the market research in season 12. It's painful to me that this even happened. Because, again, I feel like they tried to bring viewership back. It must have dropped in season 10.
Yeah.
And then, again, didn't go anywhere. I think the introduction of Jack was probably what brought a lot of fans back to the show. Yeah. Season 10, season 11 are like the dark times of Supernatural. Like, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too.
There's some great episodes in there, but like...
Yeah.
But you're right, as in the CW is losing viewers, and eventually you do just have to end a show. And what bothers me is they did know it was the last season. They did know. They did know.
Yeah.
I look to Lucifer, the show, not the character on Supernatural. Because that ended recently, and it went through its own ups and downs as a show, and I feel like as a genre show, it's fairly similar to Supernatural. I think they even have done joint conventions, like the themes are the same of found family, and like free will, definitely. Like self-actualization in Lucifer is the main theme of the show. They knew that their last season was going to be their last season, and none of those episodes, although they didn't have 20 episodes in the season, fine.
Yeah.
None of them felt like they didn't need to be there, and the finale was fine. It was fine. Like, I was happy with it. It was satisfying enough to me. I think it does just blow my mind that they announced that season 15 was going to be the last season.
Yeah, they knew. And they fumbled.
They didn't write it. You would think that you would start at the end if you knew you were going to end something.
Like, how are we going to end this and not a typical, we'll figure it out and sort it out in the next season kind of Supernatural approach.
They should have worked backwards.
Do you think there was maybe a chance that there could have been a season 16 if like other things hadn't worked out? Do you not think that maybe they were trying to leave it almost up to the last second to write the ending, just in case we decide to do season 16.
It could have
I think so.
It could have been the situation the way that I think Lucifer had it.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I see it happening, because the CW would not have done another year of Supernatural because they were like, it's too gay. But like the only way for Supernatural to keep going would be if it was rescued, as it were, by another network or service, and that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I do wonder if they were hoping that the fan, like how Brooklyn Nine-Nine came back as well.
Yeah.
Whether there'd be like enough fan hype. That's the word I was looking for. That they didn't write the ending, so that like. I mean, I don't know who would have that thought of the production department.
Yeah, why to me?
Because I'm not sure who in the upper, like, obviously Robert Singer's been there for the whole time, but I'm pretty sure he's fed up a bit too.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think it was ever a possibility that it would be picked up by another network. That show's too old. Like, it's
Yes.
gone on for too long. Lucifer was pretty fresh, and like they'd done 2 seasons, I think, and there was a big fan response to it. I don't know. The only reason there's any speculation surrounding this is because the ending was so bad.
Yeah.
My favourite theory at the moment is that 1519 was supposed to be 2 episodes. I've said this in our catch-up, that the driving off into the sunset was foreshadowed since season 2, that it was always going to be that way, and that was the ending that would have made sense and would have actually broken free of that narrative.
Yeah.
Because you would see them kind of escaping Chuck almost in their car, which is known to be an important character in the show.
Yeah,
and a vehicle for change in the show as well.
1518 was all in character. It was absolutely crushing, but it was all in character. And then 1519 is, I'm recalling when I started getting angry, but I was still fine.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, to me, if that had been it, like, if the show ended 1519, kind of like midway point, they defeated Chuck. Chuck is no longer, in control of the show, the writing, everything. So kind of breaking away from the network, breaking away from everything, and giving it back to the fans.
Yeah.
So they just, all they had to do was bring back Cass, Aileen, like, other people from the cast, and then, like, Becky. And that would have been it. I would have been fine. I would have been happy. I maybe wouldn't have been like, oh my god, the most amazing ending ever. Yeah. But I would have been fine.
The montage at the end of that episode could have been replaced with the people reappearing.
Yeah,
being
exactly.
Like, oh, we're back. Like looking around that silo that they were in. Like, we reappeared.
Yeah.
And kind of knowing that they're fine.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know why that wasn't in there. It would have been shot on the same day. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It doesn't make narrative sense.
Yeah.
And even if they didn't have extended footage of that, they literally just could have faded them back in.
Yeah. Play it backwards. I don't know.
And I mean, it's kind of reiterating what we talked about in the wrap up that we just did. We spoke about how the pacing was weird in that episode. Like, things happen and they don't, and they happen and they don't. Like, it's almost like, so the idea that Chuck won at the end, right, is almost reinforced with that last episode.
Yeah.
That they've now lost their free will again.
Yeah.
They have to go hunting.
Yeah.
Like, when the episode started, I was like, why are you hunting again?
Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
What's the motivation behind this?
What are you doing? Why?
Let's get real sad for a moment. I watched that episode. I watched it live. I watched it with my husband. And the episode starts with them montaging of, like, their normal lives. And I fully expected to see everyone else in that like, short section of the bunker. Yeah. And then it just went on and it didn't happen. And I
was seething with rage at that point, too much to think, because I knew how it was gonna end. But
I mean, for those who watched it live, I salute you, because it was
just clinging.
The whole time, like, where's Cass?
Yeah, they're gonna bring him back, right? They're gonna bring him back.
Oh,
they're gonna bring him back.
He's in heaven now. Like, we're gonna see Cass. Like.
Oh, no.
I honestly said that. Like, I said it out loud. Like, I was like, it's fine. Like, Dean's in heaven now. We're going to see Cass.
No.
No?
No. I mean, we didn't even see Jack in that episode.
Yeah, no.
And
they were mentioned.
Quarantined, so he was there with the filming. So why was Alex not there?
Yeah, and this is kind of like tinfoil hats on, because I'm not gonna discuss that episode other than it was absolutely baloney and I hate it. And what I think happened, this is the thing that keeps me sane, was that it's not actually what happened. That was Chuck, having been stripped from god powers, wrote fanfic.
Yeah.
And this is the ending. He was like, I'm gonna get back at them. Wah! And that's just what he created. But the question here is, what went wrong? We had all of those like things leading towards an ending where they break free, and then they didn't, and Dean's dead, and Cass is somewhere, and it's just awfulness, and then Sam spends his life being miserable because his life is reduced to, I had a brother and he died. A blurry wife. No. So, what went wrong?
They tried to do happily ever after, right?
No, they didn't. I feel like I know that they did, but they didn't.
Right. They tried to. No, I don't know where I was going with that, because I was like, well,
because we could have had happily ever
concept...
after of they no longer hunt. This is their apple pie life. 2.5 kids. They all came back. Whatever. Mm-hmm. That would have been happily ever after. That didn't happen.
But like none of it makes sense. Like we've spoken about this so many times.
I know.
But they went back to season 1 and was like, this is what Sam would do in season 1.
Yeah.
Fine. And that they've decided that that's what it is. But in season 1, I don't think he would have named his son Dean.
No. I'm saying this for the first time. Like, I've never had this thought before this moment, so bear with.
Mm-hmm.
It's very Greek tragedy, because, I mean, Dean dies a hero's, and I'm putting quotation marks here for people who can't see the podcast, a hero's death. He dies saving people, he dies saving children, and he has a very long, drawn-out death scene, Greek tragedy style, and ends
the
up
ambulance could have been there.
Yeah. He ends up in, like, the fields of Elysium, right? He goes to heaven and lives out his kind of Greek hero's death.
Yeah.
Whereas,
meanwhile, songs are being written about him.
Exactly. By his brother who he left behind.
Yeah.
Who does exactly what you expect any kind of, hero to do in a story, is he finds a wife, he has kids, and he continues on the legacy. It bothers me because it's not right, and it's not fair.
Yeah.
And it going back to what is and what should never be. We just did that episode.
Yeah.
Dean said, at the end of that episode, all the things we've lost, all the things we've sacrificed, and he basically says it's not fair, and it continues on to 15, 20.
Yeah. Why do I have to be the one to keep sacrificing everything for everyone? And it's like...
Exactly.
It's he's grown so much. Like, God, even as early as season 2, he's like in My Time of Dying. He's like, he talks with Tessa, and she's like, well, I just think that it's gonna be what it is. And he's like, well, no, that's crap. You can just lay down and die, or you can keep fighting, and you should keep fighting. And he has that attitude throughout the entire thing, except I think for the what is it? Give Me Shelter, which is like the episode before Despair. Yeah. This is the angriest we've seen Dean.
Yeah,
and he's
in
terrifying.
A long time.
He's ever. I think ever. He's terrifying. And by this point, he's so done with everything that he's willing to kill himself and everybody around just to get out of this situation.
That's the episode he pulls a gun on Sam, right?
Yes, that's the episode he pulls the gun on Sam. That's the episode he tells Jack he's not family. Like, he completely spins out of control in that episode.
I feel that was Dean's turning point in this season for me. It was so shocking. I remember speaking to Annabelle about it. It's like, I can't believe he pulled a gun on Sam.
Yeah.
Like, that's the most shocking moment of this. It's Dean railing against the system, right? Yeah. It's like, no, I'm not fitting into your narrative. Like, I'm not doing it. This is not happening. Like,
I'd rather die.
I'd kill everyone and myself before this happens. For them to win.
For them to turn around and just stuff this man on a rusty nail.
So we're recording this just after the Denver convention, and
I have feelings.
I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to go into most of the things that were said. I'm going to talk about one thing that Jensen said, and was that he had to fight for Dean to die standing on his feet.
Yes.
And go back to other conventions. They've been asked this many, many, many times by many, many fans.
Yeah.
How do you think the show's going to end? And they have flip-flopped on this. Yeah. For most of the time, it was like, well, we'll go down swinging, like, we'll die. And they've always said together too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because basically, and I don't know who said this, whether it was Jared or Jensen, they basically said like, well, Dean and Sam both have to die at the end, because if they don't, one's just going to bring back the other one.
Yeah.
And those who like the finale would argue with me, and I know the argument in that they were breaking out the narrative by letting one of them die and moving on.
Yeah.
But
that has happened in the show before, though.
yes, it has. It has happened in the show
Purgatory.
before.
In all of those times that, you know, one or the other has gone, there's always been other people around.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas this time, there is nobody. There is nobody around. So it would make even more sense that Sam wouldn't move on.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's nobody there for him.
And
like he's literally...
and he doesn't move on. That's the thing. He doesn't move on. He keeps crying in the goddamn car, but it's like, Sammy, you can do better.
In order to kill Dean, they had to kill off everybody else.
Yeah.
Right?
Because people would have just kept coming back for him.
It's the only way it made sense.
And they had to kill Dean because he would have gotten Cass. Because he wouldn't stop. They had to extinguish the free will of the show, which was Dean. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would maybe argue that Cass is the free will of the show,
yeah,
too.
but they killed that, and they were like, we're not bringing it back. What can bring back the free will, aka Cass, Dean? Kill that one.
It makes no sense to me. It doesn't tell you the time frame, how long it's been.
There is no way to tell.
Yeah.
Show the passage of time in your montage.
Yeah. Give us seasons for the first time ever.
Are you really going to believe... I cannot believe that, one, they never show Dean talking to Sam about Cass.
No.
And that they never explore any way to get him back. I know he asked Chuck.
And come on. There is a very easy way to get him back, which is I don't even believe that they didn't think about it, because it's like, you need the blood of the person who's in the empty. The bloody handprint. Yeah. It's on the jacket. And then it's like, it's been done before. Nick almost brought back Lucifer using Jack's blood. So it's like, there is a way, you just didn't do it.
Didn't even think of it, because that bloody handprint was improvised on the day, and we know that from what they've said. So there wasn't even the thought there.
No, they didn't. Cass. They weren't gonna do it, or maybe they were gonna. And this is tinfoil hatting, but like, part of me wants to believe that there was gonna be something, and here's why I think that.
Yeah.
And it's questions I need answers to that I am not going to get, which is, I think that Cass was going to meet with Dean in heaven, or something to that extent, or that the ending was going to be a little different in that way, because first of all, what happened at the water tower? I need to know what happened at the water tower.
Yeah. And
I don't know if you know, but there is like this SPN tape ball, which is an Instagram account, which was basically like they would do like gather up all the marks of the scenes. And all of the actors have kind of color-coded tapes that we've come to learn over the years what tape means like who. And so, like, if you see a specific color of a tape, after, you know, the picture is taken with the ball on that location, then you can see more or less who was in the scene. And there was a ball. Yeah. And there was the ball on, like, in the background, there was like a very heavenly, might I say, view of a water tower and some wilderness. Yeah. And there was a ball, and there were marks for Jensen and Misha. What happened at the water tower?
It's something that only they can answer, and I feel like there are things, and I don't know how tin hat we want to go with this, but we have the scripts. I mean, I know their source is kind of dubious, but in those scripts, if they are real, there are mentions of Cass in those scripts that were cut from the final.
Yes.
Edit.
Many scenes were hacked out of the edit.
And the only conclusion that you can come to, honestly and truthfully, is that, they were scared of the relationship between Dean and Cass.
Yeah, they panicked. Someone panicked. And they were like, this cannot go. And my question is, did that happen when they were writing and the scripts went into review? and they were like, no, this cannot happen. Did they actually film it, and what happened at the water tower? And then it went into the like rough edit, and somebody reviewed it from the network, and they were like, no, this cannot happen, and that's when they removed it. What happened?
This is things that only like producers and writers can explain, and this is why they need to be at conventions. Like,
this is the good moment to say, if anybody can get Misha Collins onto this podcast.
We have questions.
we have
questions. Actually, anybody who wants, like, from the cast and crew.
Anybody.
I'm sure Amy and Annabelle will be very amiable to talking about it.
I mean, this is
a PA of the day, you know,
PA.
head PA, come on down.
Absolutely perfect. We'll have you on.
Yep.
I don't know what happened. Something happened. I'm fully convinced something happened.
Yeah.
I can only hope that it comes out in the future, Deep Space Nine style, with like Gareth and Bashir.
Yeah.
That's all we can hope for, really. I mean,
When that whatever the next medium of movies, like, you know, Blu-ray, X-ray, comes out, and they re-release like all of Supernatural again.
Yeah.
And it's on that feature.
So it does bother me greatly, because the only logical explanation is that it was because of Dean and Cass, and I don't understand why they pulled back so hard. Like, why even have a scene of like love confession if you're not going to follow through on it?
Exactly. That's so infuriating about this.
Apart
that like
from purely queer baiting and fan service.
Yeah. Like you went like you put one foot into the water. Like what? Like, you cannot just.
And there's people who would criticize us for, like, I guess, shipping this, but
come at me.
I didn't. The thing is, you just want to see them kiss on TV. No,
it's
actually,
not about that.
It's not
it's
about
not about that.
I wanted some words. That's
yeah.
I think that's what
it's
wanted.
Literally, to most people, and obviously I'm not speaking for everybody, but to most people, this DL has never been about two hot men kissing on screen.
Yeah,
it was about like the fact that it's a story of learning to accept that one is worthy of love and finding that love and that acceptance of self through the eyes of another person.
It's never been about, like, the entire show has never been about any kind of sexual relationship with any of the like characters' partners.
Yeah, exactly.
Aside from Ruby, but she's a demon. So
we'll just skip over that one.
It's about like deep emotional attachment, and what Cass has for Dean is like deep romantic love. I will always stand by that.
I will die on that hill.
I will die on that hill. And it's not shown how Dean responds to that, and it's kind of a betrayal. Like, it feels like a betrayal.
He never aligns himself in either this direction or that direction. He's never like, I don't love him that way, but, you know, or I do love him, I'm an idiot, it's been so long. It's just like, he's not coming back, so I guess I don't have to address it, which, yes, very Dean of you, but at the same time...
He should have spoken to Sam about it. They were at that place in their relationship that they should have spoken about this. Sam doesn't actually speak to Dean about Eileen either.
No,
again, both erased from the show completely.
Yeah, and too much of a mirror. We can't have either.
Exactly.
The only other explanation is that it was to appease other fans of the show, maybe casual fans of the show.
Yeah. The people who are gonna watch Walker afterwards.
Who came back for season 15 to finally watch the end of the show that they'd watched when they were teenagers, and they only remembered it as being like Sam and Dean hunting monsters of the week, so let's make that the finale.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it was planned that way.
Couldn't have they made two finales? Like, one for the people who actually watch the show and the other for the casual viewer?
Well, I guess that's what 15, 19, and 20 was, right? So 19 was the, like, fan ending.
Yeah.
20 was the casual ending.
was the ending for the people who wanted to see man pain. Because by this point, I think nobody, like, we were all so over the man pain. We were like, yes, cool, but also we want to see them happy. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't happen.
I'm repeating myself again. But it was COVID. Like, it was awful. It was an awful year. Like, 2020 was the worst year ever for a lot of people. And I feel like even if this episode had been planned that way, I don't feel like it was needed. Like,
no.
I think you could have taken a look at that and looked at the situation, looked at the climate of the world, and been like, maybe we shouldn't go down this path of like.
It's like maybe we can just end it at 19, and we're gonna be fine.
Again, me and Amy have spoken about this before. There's something about ambiguous endings that TV shows, which you look at The Sopranos, look at that ending, right? That has probably one of the most ambiguous endings of the entire TV genre. Like, it ends halfway through a sentence. And fans are annoyed by it, but they also love it.
Yeah.
Like, they could have done the same thing with Supernatural and just left it with the sunset.
Because if
and
you give
everybody
people,
would have been
like,
fine with it.
Yeah, because if you give people, like, a concrete answer to everything, there's always going to be people who don't, like, appreciate that answer.
My main thing is this, is like, I don't understand why they just can't be normal about it. Like, why can't you be normal about this relationship along with every other relationship in the show? And I think you bringing Sam and Eileen into it, I'd never really seen the parallels before of, like, why they cut that off too. Because if Sam had ended up with Eileen, there would be even more questioning than there already is about why Dean didn't have a partner at the end of the show.
Exactly. Like, why didn't, if both of these things were going together, why didn't they end up being in the same place together? So they did. They're gone.
Yeah.
Never to be spoken about again.
No. Blurry wife. Cass helped. That's it.
Yep.
I'm angry. I'm getting angry. Because I went into the show because November 5th broke my dash on Tumblr. I was not in the fandom. And then it leaked through and I was like, a 15-year-old show with a ship that does not get resolved? That sounds like my kind of pain. and literally by Carry On, I was so angry. I watched like 15, 18 at like in the evening, and I technically had more time before going to bed to watch the other two.
Yeah.
And I started watching 19 and I got so angry I had to stop and watch it next morning because I was like, no. And then they brought like the freaking piece of metal that they spiked Dean with, and I was like, no, not like this. I know it's gonna happen, but no.
It was
not like this.
It was
horrible.
The only hope, I'm going to give some hope at the end of our darkness here, because I think there is hope for Supernatural.
Yeah.
I do. The way Jensen speaks of the show, you know, maybe there'll be a movie, maybe there'll be a reunion, maybe there'll be something else. You know, the fact that
there is going to be a prequel.
There is going to be a prequel.
And Dean's going to narrate it to whom? Cass?
I mean, like, okay, question about the prequel.
Yeah.
Like, I'm excited for it. I am, like,
Me too.
I've come
Same
around
apprehensive,
and
but excited, yeah.
Yeah. How does that work? How does someone in the future narrate something of the past? Like, so I mean, I haven't looked into it, so if you guys know the answer, I'd love to know.
I think Dean's going to be in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Dean is going to...
telling the story of
to
Mary
someone,
and John.
Cass, obviously.
But I guess he has this knowledge because heaven. That's the only way I can see.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, Jack gave him a book of, you want to see how perfect your parents were here? And then he read it and he's like, I need to deal with this.
You know, you're not wrong, because if you think about Billy, she has books of everybody's deaths.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't
I feel like God might
Jack,
have, like,
the books of everybody's lives?
Yeah. I'm excited for the prequel. I do believe there'll be some kind of reunion. I think all the actors involved would be buzzing for it, to be honest. I think it's really important that ask these questions. And I don't necessarily think these questions should be asked to the actors. I think as conventions continue, and if they continue on, I mean, I don't know how long Supernatural conventions are going to go for, but we should be like demanding of the organisers that they get people on who worked on the show. Like, I'd like to see writers, I'd like to see producers, set designers, all those people who can answer these questions. And I think as a fandom, we kind of have the power to kind of get these things if we want them.
Yeah.
Because there are many unanswered questions around the last 2 episodes. Apart from COVID, they felt so empty with nobody was there. Like, it wasn't the ending that the show deserved, and we need to know it wasn't just COVID though, was it? Like, we need to know why.
Yeah. What happened at the water tower?
I believe we'll get the answers. I'm ever the optimist.
Yeah. So here is my solution, Mr. Ackles, if you're listening, which you should. So what can be done in order for there to be a spin-off of Supernatural is we make so that half of 1519 and all of 1520 was actually Chuck's fanfic, and feel free to show us how it actually ended and what happened there. Mm-hmm. That's my pitch. It's a good pitch. Mm-hmm. You should do it.
I believe it. I think so.
I believe it too.
I think Supernatural will forever be a disappointment to me, but
the thesis.
I'm glad it ended badly, and it's only because through the bad ending of Supernatural, me and Annabelle got to start this podcast. And we got to meet some amazing people online.
That's the only reason
Jay.
why we're still here. Exactly. That's the reason why you adopted me in the first place.
Exactly. And I think if we had a good ending, we would have all gone our separate ways.
There would have been peace and we would have been done.
Yeah. So maybe the true meaning of Supernatural...
It doesn't die.
Is that it was just always bad.
You know, there'll be people out there who will not disagree with that.
You know what? And it's probably going to be most hardcore fans.
I mean, you said it. They tried to kill it many times, and it never died. And that's why the Supernatural family keeps going. Like, whether or not you relate to that tag or not, that's been the fandom name for a really long time. And I know people who, talk in the fandom who think of the people that they talk to as family. And I think, I'm getting all squishy on the end of the podcast.
No, but it is true. This is I think once in a lifetime kind of community that has sprouted around this. Partially because the show is so long. Yeah. Partially because there are just so many things people connect to, and finding like-minded people in like a difficult world, that's important.
Yeah.
And if a show helps you do that, great.
Oh, I think we should sign off, I guess. So, thank you, Jay, for joining us for our season 15 retrospective. There'll be more.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, we'll get to season 15 as well, and I'm sure we'll go through this all again with more, hopefully. Yeah. But thank you. Thank you for designing our beautiful art. We really do appreciate it. I'm just gonna go off on this for a minute just to make
okay.
I truly think the art that you designed for our podcast really changed the feel of our podcast, and I feel like it's definitely attracted more listeners as well. And I hope that through this they can find your art on Tumblr or on Ko-fi and just realize how amazingly wonderful you are.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Yeah. Since I'm here, I can, insult you back. I mean, compliment. Listening to your podcast is just amazing. Like, I finally feel like I have people that I can talk to about this show, and I'm not alone in it. So it's a great pleasure listening to your podcast always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, if you would like to join our community, I guess, we are open to discussion with you. Come and find us on any social media, and we are likely to get back to you. Any comments on the show or anything. We're Escaping Purgatory podcast on most things. So, come and join in the ranting.
I'm fairly certain that, you know, every season there's going to be at least one rant that we're going to come across. So if you would like to be part of it, we want to hear your thoughts. I mean, I would love to hear the thoughts of somebody who enjoyed the last episode. Honestly, a little bit of discord doesn't hurt anybody.
I honestly do think it's important to see people's perspective on art generally, right? And that ultimately Supernatural is a form of art. Like, I would like to see a more coming together of the fandom over this. I really would. I don't enjoy the discourse. And with that, this week, Purgatory Pals, we were joined by a fellow wanderer in Purgatory who joined us on this stretch of the journey and hopefully encourage you to come along too. So thanks and bye.
Bye.